so ineffective at reaching the world is that the world was so effective reaching the church. When you don't want to offend anybody, you're no longer a Christian. Because it's very offensive to say to somebody, your good works don't amount to anything. It's all about Jesus on the cross. That's the essence of the gospel. That's the essence of the gospel. It's all about Jesus. And what Jesus has done for us, not what we do for Jesus. We respond to Jesus. Okay? The book of Galatians says, who bewitched you when you walk away from the gospel? In 1 Corinthians 16, 13, it says, keep watch, stand firm in the faith. That's the true faith. Act like men. Be strong. That's all to be done in love. We're to watch in love. That means then you're to have a vision of what life is supposed to be like. You're supposed to be like the men of Issachar, who understand the time and do what Israel should do next. 200 chieftains with their families under them. Keep watch. Have a vision. Number 2, stand firm in the true faith. Now, I need Jesus 99% of the time. Am I a Christian? No, not at all. I need Jesus 100% of the time. Jesus is the best way. Am I a Christian? No, I'm preaching the false gospel. Jesus said, I am the only way, the only truth, and the only life. No one cometh unto the Father except through me. You see, this gospel is so precious and so beautiful. Anyone heard of the Velour Eye Hospital in Velour, India? Say it right.
Velour, yeah. Velour Christian College.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that started? There's a girl by the name of Ida Scott. You know she's in the Guinness World Book of Records? Someone wrote her a letter that said Ida, India, and it made it to her house here. Who went before her? Her father, her grandfather, and her great-grandfather. In 1791, a Dutch reformed from my denomination man was making a call, and he read a book. How will the heathen be saved? And he said, there are people in India who do not know Jesus Christ. So in 1799, he took his family, got on a boat, and he went to where William Carey was. He went to Sri Lanka as well. And for the next 4 generations, for 1,004 years, India got medical missionaries from the Scudder family because he wanted to know how the pagan would be saved. Paul is about to go to Asia, and he was stopped by the Macedonian when he had the vision. He said, no, you go up there and tell Europe about Jesus. I think they didn't know Jesus. Now they do. Our families wanted to come to India. It all begins with the simple gospel. That's how it all happened. All kinds of neat stories like that. William Carey, Vishal Mangalwadi has written a book how he actually brought modern India to not Mahatma Gandhi. Hinduism doesn't have a mechanism to shape a culture. Let's just be honest. It has no mechanism to shape a culture. Only the Bible does. Shape a culture in love. How many Hindus came to America and Europe to build hospitals? How many?
David Gibbons.
Yeah. That's it. How many Muslims came to America to build hospitals? How many Christians from America came to India to build hospitals? Yeah. I mean, case closed. Right? Boom. It's over. The gospel is the only thing that ignites us. Right? Stand, keep watch, stand firm, act like men. Do all these in love, because verse 14 says, do everything in love. What it's saying is keep watch in love, stand firm in the faith in love, and act like men in love and be strong. Now, in your men's group, people will say this about to be strong in 1 Corinthians 16:13. They'll say it means to have good character. It means to, no, it doesn't. It means to be physically strong. It means to be physically strong. We are to keep good care of our bodies. Okay? When I was 59, I could go play basketball. I let my body go. I need to get back into shape so I can do that. Okay? We need to be strong. We need to take care of our bodies and be a good steward. And it does mean that we should have strong character. But it takes a lot of physical strength to live a holy life, right? So anyway, nothing but the gospel. I do not like the song, by the way. Just give me Jesus. I'm a Calvinist. Salvation by grace through faith in Christ alone. Boom. We'll take a bullet for anything else. Why don't I like that song? Just give me Jesus. I know what it's saying, but I don't like it. I like what it's saying. Because in the Garden of Eden, we're with God. Everything's perfect, and we need the one. We need the church. We need each other. We need fellowship. Jesus is enough to save us. He's not enough just to live. That's a little aside. All right, but the gospel is the only thing that saves us. Here's what I'll do when I'm preaching in America. I'll go to a church, and Americans love to think all religions are the same. And so I'll stand there in the pulpit and I'll go, well, we know all religions are the same. Most of us remember the Hindu hospital in Grand Rapids. And those wonderful Muslims who came over and they built the other hospital on the south side of Grand Rapids. And they ministered to us because they just loved us. And people this, and I'll watch their faces. I'll say exactly. It's only the gospel. It's only the gospel that really changes people's lives. Okay? All right. Here we go. The Grace Life, Father and Finances. I'm going to just show you this here. It should be right here. Right here. Okay? It's going to take us a while to get to this part of finances, but I want to show you this part here. What I want you to do Now, what I want you to do and understand, have a men's group, is this. Here's what my friend Joe Beakey, you read a lot of Joe Beakey stuff, right?
Yeah.
Here's what he says, Bruce, you and I got to go to work with our dads. Our dads led family worship. But you know, I wish my dad was interested in some of the other stuff. That it's fun. Have fun with your kids. So many nights after we ate supper at the driveway with my kids and we would be shooting baskets. They would go up for layups, like this. I try to get them in game situations. We watch sports as a family. We have fun. Now we're trying to learn how to golf because it's free for us. Golf used to be very expensive in the U.S. And now we have a place that, because we have renters, and it pays for us to do that. But anyway, have fun with your kids and then teach them money. So right here for your men's group, GLB's mission, helping men build lives that matter via faith, finances, and fun. Here's 3 things that we want you to teach every man to do. Have a daily meal. What's that? No. I will when I eat. Why, do I have something? Oh, I'm sweating? Oh, okay, that's all right. Okay, so here's just 3 things. Guys, I study this constantly. I read study after study, and statistic after statistic, and I read through the Bible to look for these things. To hand down your faith, most important things you can do. Daily mealtime. Now that means you're giving great reverence to your wife. That's huge. Like I say, 3 things. There's a presupposition and an understanding here that you're treating your wife like the jewel she is. Okay? That's an assumed thing here. So these are just things to do. Have daily meal time together. Eat together. Jonathan Edwards, Abraham Kuyper. I study these guys, and I can tell you what Abraham Kuyper's schedule was. How many hours he spent preparing for his writings. He was a brilliant writer. But he wasn't like Edwards. Edwards spent time with his family. And at precisely 6 o'clock, or it was 5 o'clock, now I forget which, Jonathan Edwards would come from the church and sit down and have dinner with his family. And he would ask them about their day. They would eat together. He would roll around with them on the floor. His mealtime was very intimate. You're eating together. You're sharing life together. In Africa, the father will go into another room and eat by himself so he's not disturbed by the children. I'm telling you that's wrong. You don't find that in the Bible. That's a separatist type thing. People who love each other and eat together. In the Bible, Jesus institutes what? The Lord's Supper. Jesus went off by himself to pray when he ate with the disciples. Okay? But he gave them the disciples. Families that succeed eat together. Get your families to eat together at least one meal a day. Okay? That's where we other. They say, Casey, Rachel, Courtney, how's your day go? Oh, it's really good. I did this. And I tell you what, the first 10 years, we had kids. I was great. I would lay on the floor with my kids. I would read the Bible to them. We'll talk. I covered most of this, and I'll cover it again tomorrow. But this is more for advance, so I'm not giving a whole lot of time. But I'd lay on the floor with my kids. We'd read the Bible. If they're 8, we spend 8 minutes. You don't spend 20 minutes. You don't say to a 2-year-old, listen to the Bible for the next 20 minutes. You got brain damage if that's what you think is going to happen. If they're 2, 2 minutes. If they're 3, 3 minutes. Now, kids are at different ages, but I would lay on the floor. My kids loved to have me read this Bible to them when they were younger. It was when I was older, I stopped doing that and we had to pick it up again. Regular family devotions. So we did devotions as a family. Now here's something too. I just thought of this today. I had a text my daughter who's 25. And I remember she would say, Dad, after I'd read the Bible to her, can you just stay here for a while until I fall asleep? Yeah. So I took my glasses off, put them under her bed. And then she fell asleep and I got up and left. And this is when I was just starting to wear glasses. I didn't wear them all the time. And I lost my glasses for a month. I had to go to the store and get another pair. I couldn't find them at all. It's because I took them off and put them under her bed and I forgot all about it. And then someone was vacuuming or someone was looking for shoes and found them. But we would read the Bible to our kids separately when they went to bed. Either my wife did it or I did it. When they were younger, we did it together as a family after meal time. So we had family devotions and private devotions, okay? And then we always attended church together. I did not allow my kids to play sports on Sunday. That just drives a wedge in the family. And in America, that's God. Now we stopped having family worship because of sports, but going to church together, okay? But if you'll do these 3 things, guys, and if you'll teach your men to do these 3 things, besides love their wives like Jesus did for the church, that's a gift. They'll have daily meal times, regular family worship, devotion, and they attend church together. You know what my friends and I are complaining about now? Very few of our kids go to evening service. How many of your churches have morning, evening services? You have evening? Oh, no, we have morning service and evening service. That's very important where we come from. We like that. I might like it. I like that. It's obviously, and I say to my kids, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you're not a Christian. Don't fool yourself. Okay, but you're part of the body. But we also like to go to church together, and we're finding some of our kids aren't doing that. So, anyway, that's not the end of the world. Them not going to church is the end of the world. But attend church together. Okay, number 2, teach men how to be successful. These are only 3 areas. And teach men how to dream, survive, and thrive. Ask men what they want their financial lives to be. Proverbs 13:22. Read Proverbs 13:22.
Everyone needs and you best preach wisdom.
talking about money, man. A wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Why won't Naboth sell his vineyard?
His inheritance from his forefathers.
Yeah, it's from his forefathers. He's expected to hand a material blessing. We live in a material world. God created the earth and said it was good. So we should be saving. Budget based on priorities. Budget based on priorities. My wife says this one thing to our daughters. Have a budget. Have a budget. Dave Ramsey's the #3 radio personality in America. That's all he does is teach people how to handle money. How to have a budget. You should have a budget for your money. For every dollar that comes in, what goes out? Do you have a budget? Remember I told you, here's my, that's duplication. Like this is multiplication, okay? Now, what's your vision for your money? For every time you get $1, $10, or $100, or $1,000, it shouldn't matter. You should have a vision for that money. Okay? My wife does excellent, so I don't have to think about it. We establish a budget together and then she administrates it. Okay? There's some times where we have too much month at the end of our money. You know what that means? Too many bills. Who's responsible for that? We are. I told you my friend makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do I? No. Who am I? Am I responsible for your budget or for my budget? My rich friend's budget or my budget? Yeah. Men need to learn to be men with money. We have way too many boys in the church. We need mature men. You start to think about your children's children. These were very poor people, not one of them. I guarantee you this. It doesn't say it anywhere in the Bible, but I will put my hand right here and you can chop it off if it's not true. Not one person in the Bible had the internet. Not one person in the world had a Walmart. Nobody in the Bible did. I bet they didn't have that we have. How many of you have more than 4 pairs of hands? All of us, yeah. Okay? Our wants are bigger than our needs. That's true all over the world. I know people who make $10,000 a year and they're very content. And I know people who make $100,000 and they're very discontent. Who's responsible for that? We are. We're the man. A wise man leaves an inheritance for your children or his children. His children's children. It means that they saved enough to have some left over. Okay? So, planning for future generations. Teach men how to handle money. Men should have a mastermind group. I talked to this young man in our church about buying and selling real estate. He'll show me what he thinks he's going to buy. I will say whether that's wise or not. There's another guy in our church, and I'll say to other people in town, you know who one of my best friends is at church? I go, no, Mark Vanderpool. Really? I said, do you ever think he and I would be friends? Because they know both of us. They don't know, don't see that coming at all. Well, Mark and I both like real estate. He likes to buy things and I hold him accountable and fix things. And he holds me accountable. Men should build men up to make money. You know, I don't tell everyone what I do. I tell one or two people. Mark will say, that's not a good idea. Mark will go buy something and he'll say, do you think that's a good idea? And I'll say yes or no. And I'll say, no, you're spending too much money. Men do that for men. We tell each other how to. God created the family. I have this in here later on. To create wealth, maintain wealth, build wealth, and distribute wealth. Do you know why I get to travel around the world? Because my wife has a job that provides for the insurance. We have a building that provides for my salary and people who give. Those people who give, guess what? 90% of them are married. Married couples make money. In America, listen to this. In America, you will do better financially than your parents. This has been true for 400 years. Provided one thing in America. You know what that one thing is? And it's been true for over 400 years. You get married and stay married. You get married and stay married. There's a marriage premium. And it's a financial thing. There's sex has a lot to do with your finances. Did you know that? Get married, stay married. The best indicator of marriage is family worship, by the way. And I tell you about that. I talk to these guys who are new, and you might be a little confused. But these guys know that marriage and family worship is the most successful thing you can do for marriage. The most successful thing you can do for your finances is get married and stay married. Get married and stay married. Okay? Now, my wife and I bought a vacation property. It's a rental. Okay? In 10 years, we hope to have enough money in it that we can use it during the summer. Okay? But right now, it's to make money. If my wife and I got a divorce, I would have to move into one of our small houses and she would have to move in the other, and we'd have to sell our nice condo. We would be poor. Now we're working together so that in 10 years we'll have an inheritance for our children's children. You and your wife are an economic entity. If you don't have a budget, if you don't learn how to control money, money will control you and it will ruin your marriage. If a man does not provide for his family, he's worse than the woman. Unbeliever. Okay? So then, fun. Guys, fun. You should learn how to have fun with your family. Weekly fun night out. Here's what I can tell you. I travel all over the world. I've met a few very, very poor people, but most of us in every culture I've ever been in can afford ice cream. To go out for ice cream, right? Yeah. It's just that simple. Everyone can afford to go out for ice cream. Now, I do have to say, what I love about coming to India is this is a developing country. There's a lot of hope and expectation. In Africa, people are very, very poor. There's not much resources. Okay? There's not many resources. But everyone can afford to go out for some ice cream, just have some fun. You can always, in America,
It's not in India.
What's that?
In India, we are not going to things. So in our culture, only going for some dress function, something like that. We are not going for ice cream.
You're not going for ice cream?
No. In our culture, we are not going for any meaningful get to the roads and outside.
Okay.
Yeah. Always ladies are staying home, working home.
See,
Yeah, when if you get one function or marriage function or something.
No, that has to change in a certain.
Yeah, maybe change.
Everyone can afford, my wife and I buy coupons and then we go out to eat.
Yeah, this is good.
Now this, in America too, here's what we have. We have state parks, beaches. So my wife and I can drive to Lake Michigan and we can walk on the beach for free. This cost us gas to get there. State parks are beautiful, beautiful beach, fresh water. One night out a week. You should take your wife out one night a week. Family fun night. Something inexpensive. Just go someplace and eat ice cream. Monthly game night. Now, we don't do this as well. We go to games, like we go watch sporting events, okay? And then yearly vacation. My father was a self-employed man. Most families in America today get paid vacation. So they go on vacation, they come back and they get a paycheck. That was not true in my family. It's true for my wife and I. So it wasn't true in my family. My dad was self-employed. He was a carpenter. And when he went to work, he got paid 90% of the time. Some people cheated. But listen, when he took us on vacation and he came back, there was no paycheck. Now I remember my dad was killed, right? It's been 40 years. I remember the great vacations he took us on. I'm glad he took us to work. I never went hungry a day in my life. My grandfather in the Netherlands never ate till he was full as a child. He never said, oh, that's enough. He was poor, dirt poor. My father never remembered ever being hungry. I don't ever remember thinking, my mom said we were poor, but we weren't. I never remember having anything but new shoes, new carpet, a new house. My dad was a builder, so we would move next door. Now, we weren't poor, we weren't rich. I knew that, but we weren't poor. But my dad made sure that we went on vacation every year. Let's go visit relatives. That he put money aside to take us to the beach. On Sunday, we'd go to church, we'd have dinner, then my dad would take us to the beach. We'd jump in the water as kids, half hour there, and then we would come back and then we'd go to church at night. That was a fun thing to do in the summer. You gotta help your men make memories with their families. Have fun as a family. And on this, that I'm gonna have Wilson make some more copies of, I have this thing about between pitches. And it's about a guy playing catch with his kid. You build relationships. These guys out here throw me the ball. We start to build a relationship. You can do a lot of things by playing sports. In America, white people and black people used to live separate lives. You know what changed that? Sports. Sports. having fun. If you come to my office in America, I got a picture of Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey was the white man who was the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Jackie Robinson played in the Negro Leagues, okay? And they said black guys can't play with white guys. Now, they did 100 years before that, but then they said that they segregated them. Branch Rickey was a Christian. And he said, that's wrong. And I'm going to change the world. And he had that dream of divine desire as a 25-year-old man. By the time he was 60 years old, he could change that. We made a movie in America with Harrison Ford called 47 or 42. It's about Jackie Robinson, and it was about integrating baseball. Okay? That's how the world changes. Sometimes fathers and sons and daughters and dads have a hard time communicating. But you can always communicate around sports, around playing, around having fun. Don't ever underestimate the power of fun, of playing with your kids. I'll just end with this thing here about my grandfather was Dutch Reformed. It means he was dark, dour, and sour. It's hard to make a living, and it was hard back then. And my dad, they came from a family of 12 children, and one of them died at birth, and it was during the Great Depression, shortly thereafter. My dad said to my grandfather, Pa, can I play ball with the kids? Because they were starting at the school and they were going to play sports. Guys, this was 80 years ago, okay? 80 years ago. My grandfather was in the barn. He took the manure and threw it at my dad. And my dad is full of manure. He says, don't think you're hot shit just because you're going to high school. That's mean. That's dark, dour, and sour. That's what some of the old Dutch Calvinists were like. And that was wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The Bible is life affirming. So my dad made sure we played sports, and we could. We only had 2 rules. Besides, you listen to the coach. You had to have a good haircut so your hair wasn't in your eyes. And you had to go to bed the night before so you were full of pep. Okay? So he made sure we could play sports. Now, listen. Building up men to build a legacy of grace. Praying together, paying together, and playing together. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Now, this is the last story on this, and then we'll flip the page. There's my friend's great-grandfather said he had $10,000, which is a lot of money today in America, but it was totally a lot of money at the turn of the last century. So he had 3 sons. The first son he gave $10,000 to. And that son said, this is my big chance. He built a big, beautiful house on a lake. And he took his wife on a honeymoon world tour. And then he worked at a factory the rest of his life. $8,000 for the house. This was 1900. And then the honeymoon. And then he went to work for the next 40 years. Raised his kids, his family. The next brother said, this is my big chance. He took the money and started a business. And that business employed his children and his children's children. He was very successful. The third brother said, this is my big chance. He went away to college. He went to graduate school. And he lived the life of an intellectual. 3 sons, same gift, 3 different choices. We know that everyone is gifted differently, right? Gifts and talents. By the way, Vishal Mangalwadi maintains that India was built, modern India was built by British pastors' second sons coming to India. They understood justice in the law, in the Bible. Apart from God's objective word, there is no law. Now, in India, in the Ganges River, you learned how to divert it to build a temple. In America, we diverted the water so we could flood the valley and grow vegetables and have hydroelectricity. It's a different world in life view. Indian people have always had the capacity. I went to Mysore, and there's this big, huge palace. And 500 years ago, from Mysore, they ruled all of India, right? We didn't get anything close to that in the United States of America. Nothing. The Incas, the Mayas, and the Aztecs in South America had something similar to that. We had nothing like that. But yet, we feed the world now. Why? Because there's a world in life view that says we're to do practical things, and therefore we subdue the land. But in the Ganges River, they diverted it, and then they started to grow food, and you had a caste system, and they started to beat up the poor people and steal their food. It was pastors' second sons who had no inheritance in England came to India and administered justice. This is according to Bishop. Read Truth and Transformation and read these things. The world desperately needs the Word of God applied in real and practical ways there. This is what we're gonna look at. That you can just read later. That was something else I did. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about money here a little bit more, okay? Tomorrow it's gonna be about time stewardship. Is everyone on this right here? Okay? We got yours in colors. Good. You got the expensive one. Okay? A life that is grace. And if you notice here, you don't do it as cleanly as what I say here. Okay? I have 10% goes to God. And I'm just going to show you this right here now, guys. A life that is grace. Priorities, perspective, and principles, because every life has a divine destiny. Therefore, people are responsible to designate every dollar, detail every day, and direct every talent. This is about designating every dollar that you get. Malachi 3:10 says what? Bring the whole tithe to the storehouse. David said he never saw God's people begging for bread. I'm just gonna ask you this, I don't want you to say anything out loud, are you tithing? My wife and I went to seminary. Not only did they not teach us to do father-led family worship, they didn't put that responsibility on us. They said men are men, men are women, and women are men. Hear what I said? Men are women and women are men. That's where the gender bender started in our seminaries 40 years ago in America. Okay? Now, they never taught us anything about money. I can tell you, I can go back into time, and I'm driving in Iowa. My wife and I have one baby, and we went to the Siouxland Christian Education Conference. And I'm driving the car, and my wife is in the back with the deacon, stands next to me, my friend Denny Heemstra. We're dear friends still to this day. My wife and Denny started saying, we went to the conference on finances and Christian finances. And my wife and I were tippers. How many of you go out to eat and you tip the waiter? Do you do that? Is that a custom here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we were tipping God. We were giving him a little bit here and there. We weren't tithers. She got a budget. We got a pencil and paper. We started tithing. That doesn't mean our car's never broken down. That doesn't mean that everything has gone hunky-dory. It just means that God is our priority now, and has been for the last 35 years. Remember, we were married for 5 years without kids. We dated for 5 years. I went to college, to seminary. I went to one of the finest colleges in Michigan, called Hope College. I never missed church morning or night. I wasn't ever really taught about tithing. My dad said to my brother, now that you got a job, you should give 10% to the Lord. It made sense to me that we should have been tithers, but we weren't detailed. And now every time we get a check, boom, 10% goes to the Lord. I'm just telling you. I'm just giving you a testimony. When I was 50 years old, I told you I lost my job. Whose problem was that? God's. It was his problem. Because I'm a tither. God was under an obligation. Now, God doesn't say, jump from this building and see if I will not supersede the laws of gravity, does he? But he does say, bring the whole tithe to the storehouse and see if I will not open the royal treasury of heaven. He says, test me in this. He doesn't say that about anything else, does he? He does say that about money. God wants to be tested. Okay? So now, 10% goes to the Lord. Okay? Now, I firmly believe that. Now, I believe this is wise. What's the next 10% go for? Retirement. Where do I get this? From the Bible. It says, the ant, O you sluggard. He has no master over him, yet he stores away for winter. What does winter mean in the Bible? Old age. Old age. Okay? You're not going to be as, my friend and I talk about this. When we were in our 30s and 40s, we would go to meetings at night, come home and still work. When we've done this here at this, they say this about us: you're the only group that comes back at night. We Dutch Reformed people love to work. But guess what? Tonight, we're not gonna do it. I'm 62 years old. I'm gonna have somebody, one of the young men, carry that to my place over there. I'm not gonna go play basketball with these guys. Now, I'm tempted, but I'll get hurt. But when I was 58, I hurt them. You remember what they said to Philip, Matthew, Philip? You tell that old man he is going to get hurt with those young boys. When I went out and played. 5 minutes later, he said, that old man is going to hurt those boys. I was young, I was strong, I was vital. But sooner or later, you're not. So you have to save for when you're older. Go to the end, oh you sluggard. In America, we have something called retirement plans. You need to maybe start your own. If you don't have one, you find someone. And again, the first 10, 20, 30 years, just what, 10% away. Start now. And then you will have something when you're older. Why could my wife and I buy that vacation home? Because we had stored money away. Okay? Now, not everyone can do the exact same thing, but everyone can save just a little. I didn't tell you to save $10,000, did I? I said to save 10%. Dave Ramsey in America tells everyone to save 15%. I don't think that's realistic for everybody. But we could save 10%. Now, here's the next thing. Activities, 10%. I believe this comes from the Bible, my friends. That 10% of your money should be used for fun. Should be a fun fund. Everyone can afford to go out for ice cream. Or go to the state park. Put away your money to have fun. My dad took us on vacation. Made sure we had fun. You're going to be in that pine box. And it should be just about work. It should be just about God. It should be about godliness and having fun together. There's a difference. You know what I'm talking about. Some people are more spiritual than God himself. God says to go with your family and to enjoy life. God says enjoy life with the life of your youth. God has a prescription. He says you can have all the money in the world, but only God gives you the ability to enjoy it. Just go and spend 10% of your money and just having fun. Have fun, guys. Couples who win, have fun together. Read the book of Ecclesiastes. Before you think I'm wrong, read the book of Ecclesiastes. How many of you ever read the book of Ecclesiastes? That's all it talks about is enjoying life with the life of your youth. Okay? Now, common expenses. I have 50% here. That means the house that you live in, the heat that you have, everything else. You have 50%. Some of you may have a house payment. Some of you may have rent. Some of you, you gotta have, in America, it's cold. And so my wife and I looked for a house where we have a neighbor on this side and on that side. So we don't have exposed walls. So we have it doesn't cost us as much to heat the house. Because that's a big expense in America where we live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's usually 0 degrees Celsius all winter long. lower, higher, 0 degrees. And they don't give fuel away in America. But we live cheaper by having neighbors on this side and neighbors on that side in a condo. We still have a nice place, don't we, Wilson? Yeah, it's still nice. It's one of the smallest houses in our whole town. And we love it. You know what an African businessman said when he came to our house? Your house is fit for a prince. We said, you should see our neighbor's house. There is another one with a big house if you can afford it. But we want to keep our expenses down. Okay, so your common expenses. We're very blessed in America. We spend less on food than our forefathers did. We spend less on clothing than our forefathers did. Things have become cheaper in America, daily expenses. Have you ever heard of Walmart? Yeah, they've made things cheaper.
Yes.
And then here, the emergency fund. Guess what? Your car's gonna break down. Your shoes are gonna get holes in them. I got shoes that are 15 years old. I got them resoled once, put a sole on them. And then for $15 the other day, they desalted them, polished them, and put a protective coating on them. These are $110 shoes, $200 if I bought them brand new. But if I put a little more money into it to take care of them, what's cheaper, $150 or $15? Yeah, so I buy good care and I take good care of them. Okay? Now, but your emergency fund, back to that. As sure as sparks fly upward, sure enough, you're going to have trouble. Okay? Now, if you look at that, that's 10, 20, 30, 80, 90. And then I have descendants. Proverbs 13:22, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Let me just let you in on a little secret here. My wife and I do not follow this until we were empty nesters. Now we're saving money for our children's children because something's going to go more wrong than this little budget here. So now we're saving money for our children's children. And we will give them something. What I'm trying to tell you is this: a budget isn't perfect, but you need to have something that you're aiming for. Okay? You need to have something that you're aiming for. And the Bible has to be your guide. I don't say, oh, I'm going to do ministry. I'm going to do ministry. Well, when I got fired, lost my job, and then I thought nothing opened up. I was ready to move on. But God waited till the very last minute, right? probably 10 minutes away. And that had been a long, hard year. That was a whole year that happened. Okay? But do you have a budget? The Bible talks about to know the condition of your flocks. Don't let the little foxes ruin it. Jesus says a man does not build the tower unless he has a plan. Plan the work and work the plan. We are Christians. We are to have a plan. We are to talk to our spouse. We are to work together in concert. We are to get her on the team. If you get your wife on the team, financially, you'll find out that you'll get along a lot better than every other area. Now, some women aren't good at it, some are. I had a guy say this: my wife spent everything. so I had to hide money from them. I don't have that problem. My wife is very frugal and very thrifty. You realize that Dutch people created their own land, right? I told you that earlier. It's innate within us to be thrifty, to be frugal. In the Netherlands, you'll see beautiful fields. 40 years ago, we pushed the land back and created our own land with dikes and other such things. You gotta learn how to be thrifty and how to be a good steward. It's all about stewardship, guys. And then you wanna see God. So my wife and I say, we got fired. I got fired. We saved money and the money got somewhat stolen from us once. It doesn't work out perfect. My mom gave us money for our kids to go to college. And after 10 years, it was less than what she gave us, because we gave it to professionals. You're gonna go up and down. But last month I made more money than I ever made. Now I'm losing some of it again. It's called the stock market. I have houses and they don't always pay the rent. But sooner or later, over the long run, you're putting God to the test. But you gotta have a plan. Families who win have a plan. Families who win leave an inheritance for their children's children. Families that win have fun together. Now, here it is, the family is God's gift to live and give. David say in 1 Chronicles 29:14, but who am I and what is my people that we should be able thus to offer willingly? For all things come from you, God, and of your own have we given you. They're going to build the temple. David and all these families have money. You know what they have to tell the people? Stop giving, we have enough. Is that a problem in your church? Wouldn't that be a nice problem to have? I'm gonna teach this to people in America. You know what? They look at me just like you're looking at me. I don't believe him. He's unrealistic. And they make $100,000 a year. You know, the everyday millionaire in America, you know what they do? Most of them are teachers, mid-level executives, and preachers and teachers who save their money, have a plan, mid-level executives. Only 11% have inherited their wealth. 11% have inherited their wealth, millionaires in America. Dave Ramsey did an extensive study on that, and I've done the research and read it all. They do it by having a plan and sticking to the plan. You gotta have a budget. You know what's really sad? I had this guy say this to me once. Pastor, the most pathetic thing in the world is to see a man at work who's 62 years old and he has to work until he's 70 because he's lost all his money. I'm telling you guys, when you're 70 years old, it's hard to go to work every day. You're tired. You're very tired. Now listen, okay, but David says, now On this side, I'm going to teach you about why God created families. He created families to create wealth. Genesis 1:26, the cultural mandate. We in Reformed theology really emphasize the cultural mandate. Men and women were designed to work. Okay? That is radical to Western civilization. We've unhitched ourselves from the Bible. America is going downhill. We're going downhill fast. I told you this before, and I'll say it again. I think India and Africa, I'll throw that in too, are the most important nations, countries. Africa has different parts of it, are the most important countries for the next 100 years. For 400 years, Christianity has thrived in the West. All great theologians have come from the West. That's not true in the last 20 years. Great theologians are coming from the Middle East, from India, and from Africa. The great theologians. Christianity believed, the West believed work was good and business was good. Now we're told that if you save your money and work hard, you're a pig. You're a capitalist pig. And we have people in the streets who burn things up because they want to take the money from the middle class of America and give it to people who don't work. We have a welfare state. We're crumbling, friends. We're crumbling. You guys are the ones who are going to, and you're going to save, and Africa may be the other one, I think, that will save Christianity. We're falling apart. Last year in America, for the first time, or it was 2 years ago, more people slept in than went to church. We're over 400 years old. That's the first time that's ever happened. And most of the churches aren't worth getting out of bed for in America. Okay, so God wants the family to create wealth. It's the cultural mandate to subdue the earth. We read that this morning. Men and women are to work and work hard. Okay? My wife stayed home and worked at home very hard for 10 years while we raised our kids. And she would go 1 day a week, wherever we lived. They would say, well, we need someone to help us at the school. So then I would stay home and watch the kids on Mondays. That was my day off. And then she slowly, for the next few years, worked 1 or 2 days a week. And now she works every day. And I work every day because we believe work is of God and work is good. Psalm 127, 128, Luke 3:14, Ecclesiastes 9:9. God created the family to create wealth. Now you see that little picture there? Here's what communists do. They try to get a piece of the pie. You know what Christians do? They bake their own pies. Plural. You know what I say to my kids? Stop pissing and moaning about a piece of the pie. Make your own pies. We're not givers. We're givers. We go and we kill the golden, we go kill I'm using the Dave Ramsey one. I'll go back to mine. We bake pies. We don't try to get other people's piece of the pie. Christians have always made the pies. Communists fight for a piece of the pie. That's unchristian. Number 2, God created the family to maintain wealth. You realize that during Nehemiah's rebuilding of the wall, every family built in front of their own wall. Do you realize that? How do you have a strong society? You build the wall in front of your own house. What a novel idea. So if I'm going in front of your house, I might get tired and want to take the day off. Not my house. They're going to come and try to rape and kill my daughters and my wife. I'm going to make sure that I build the wall, aren't I? That's what we do. That's why God created the family. And we have a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. Read the Bible. It's practical. It's real. A sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. They didn't just pray, oh, don't let them come. Don't let them come. They had a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. They worked at it in front of their own house. Right? Do we all read the same Bible? Can I get an amen? One of the things I try to say to my kids is this. Proverbs 14:4. If you get an ox, it's going to make a mess, but you'll get more work done. An ox poops. It smells, right? But at least I buy houses. It's a pain in the butt. People don't always pay me. I have to make a phone call. I don't usually do the landlording. I have somebody else do it. They go get the money. I say to the guys who live in my house, I don't care if you got picked up by Martians. I don't care what car broke down. I'm telling you, if you pay me on the first of the month, it's X amount. If you don't pay me, it's X plus. I don't care what happened to you. I care if I get my money on this day. You may think that's really mean. No, it's not. It's the kindest thing I can say to them. They're stealing money from me if they don't pay. I didn't tell them to live in my house. They asked to live in my house. That's not being mean. It's just being just. Okay? They can go live someplace else. You know what most of the time they're doing, by the way? They're spending it on a new little wheel on their cars or something like that. I don't care. They can afford it, they can do it, but they need to pay me because I need to make payments, right? Maintain wealth. That means get an ox sometimes. Okay, then Proverbs 31:16. That's about the woman. She sees land and she buys it. She sees land and she buys it. They're on the same team, guys. Get your wife on the same team. You're an economic entity. Build wealth. Samuel 17. David's 1, 2, and 3. Oh, yeah. By the way, David kills Goliath. Why? You uncircumcised Philistine. You will not say that about my God. Hits him in the head. We don't know if Goliath's dead yet. We do know once David takes the sword and chops his head off and picks it up, he's dead. But what's David's motivation? Hey, you go kill this Goliath, your family's exempt from taxes. I'd like a brother like that. You know how much my wife and I pay in taxes? Do you guys pay taxes?
Yes.
Oh. Would you like to be exempt from taxes?
Yeah.
That was David's motivation. Yes, it was for God and God's glory, but he was not going to have to pay taxes. No, David doesn't say, oh, no, King Saul, I love to pay taxes. I don't care about money. That's how many stupid things we say as Christians. I don't care about money. Really? I do. The Bible does. Jesus talked about money more than anything else. The love of money is the root of all evil. Be very careful, because it can rob your soul. I've seen people become overly concerned about their money. Greedy. Money is like manure. You spread it around, it's fertilizer. You gather it all in one place, it stinks, right? But God created the family to create wealth, maintain wealth, and build wealth. Again, we said the one guy with the one talent. Jesus wanted a return on the investment, did he not? Yeah, he expected a return on the investment. Again, when the gospel infiltrates a culture, the level of living and giving goes up. I'm able to come here because couples are working in America. I'm going to give you guys some money at the end of this. You know why? Because a plumber said, you're going to India? We got to have breakfast. A bricklayer said, by the way, here's money for India. Another carpenter. These aren't rich people. These are people who love you and want to see you succeed. And they give their money so you can succeed. By the way, one of the things you'll have to do is bring your wives out for ice cream. Okay? That's the first thing you have to do. God has designed the family to create wealth, to maintain wealth, and to build wealth, and then to distribute wealth. Proverbs 3:9-10, the Great Commission as well, says this. And then Paul says, I don't even remember, someone read Proverbs 3:9-10. I don't even remember what that says.
Honor the Lord with your wealth and the first fruits of all your crops.
Yes.
Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine.
Yeah, Malachi wasn't coming up with anything new. And then Paul picks up on this and says in 1 Corinthians 16:2, on the first day of the week, each put aside and store it up as he may prosper, so there will be no collecting when I come. Paul doesn't want them to wait until they have the money. They have the money. Okay? Paul picks up on that same thing. So he expects us to have a plan, right? And he's telling the families to do this. The way to, now in America, when a man divorces his wife, the level of living for the man goes up, and for the woman it goes down. I still don't get why that's true, but it's true. Right before I came here, I said to my wife, you go get the medicine, I'm gonna go get fruit. So I wanted to see if they had good fruit, okay? Grapes, I love grapes. I'm addicted to these grapes that are big and round, that are about this big. Oh, they're good. And I love them, and I wanted to see if they had the right apples, okay? And all of a sudden I go and I see this girl from our church, from our old church. And she starts telling me that her husband had cheated on her, that she was working 2 jobs, that he's living in a beautiful new remodeled house. Why she was telling me that was very inappropriate, because I'm in the fruit section of the store, by the way, and I'm like, I don't want to hear all this. And my wife is waiting for me. But here's my point. Another man failed. She starts to tell me in front of God and everybody, well, I was pregnant, he cheated on me 3 times when I was going to have my kid. Again, that was pretty inappropriate, right? But you edit that out. Do not repeat that. Forgot about that. But my point is, another man failed. I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming her husband. He couldn't keep it in his pants. You know what that means? He let his fountain spill in the street, as Proverbs says. It's not a man. That's a dog. That's a dog. And he left his wife and kids high and dry. That family now can't give to missions. And send. What's that? Oh, yes, okay. So, what time we eat?
7:30.
Okay, we're only gonna go till 6:30 here. Again, how I'm able to come here, married couples. Almost all my giving comes from married couples who want other couples to come to know Jesus. I have this right here. I want to end tonight with this. I want you guys to do some other stuff here, but I want to end with the book of Ephesians, chapter 2. And I want someone to read Ephesians 2, 1 through 3.
And you have wicked who were dead in trespasses and sins, wherein in time past you were according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience.
Okay, keep going.
Among whom also our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and the mind nature, the children of wrath, even as others.
Okay, under condemnation, right, Satan's alive and well on planet Earth. Did you know that? He's real. He hates you and he hates me. And he hates father-led family worship. He hates anything that is godly. Paul is saying to the church in Ephesus that Satan is a part of our condemnation. So is society. And so is the self. They're condemned. They're going to hell. Everything there is ungodly and a part of our condemnation. Okay? Continue, please, Raj.
But God,
Oops! But God,
who is rich in mercy,
who's rich in what?
or is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us. Even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace you are saved.
Ooh! Okay, this is justification. Don't get out of pulpit, don't preach, don't teach unless you know the difference between justification and sanctification and glorification. Okay? So here's our condemnation, all wrapped up with Satan, society, and self, in which we all lived. Why do we have compassion on everybody? Because we were the same way. We live for ourselves. Guys, I didn't miss church morning or night for the first 16 years of my life. And I would have died and gone to hell until Jesus opened my heart. God's grace. What have we contributed? Nothing. We were justified by the act of God. What did we contribute? Sin. That's our contribution to our salvation. Hey, did you earn God's love? Yeah, I gave all my sin. This is love, not that I love God, but that God first loved me. He gave his son, Jesus Christ, as an atonement for my sins. Do you know what the word dead means in the Bible? Dead. How many of you been to a funeral? That's what dead means. That's what we were, dead in our sins and our trespasses. Lazarus was dead. And Jesus waited till he was thoroughly dead. What's he say to Lazarus? Lazarus, come out! Because he's got the power over death. God has the power over our death. But God, who is rich in mercy, undeserved, unmerited favor, God calls us out of our deadness. Continue, please.
And have raised us together and made us sit together in heavenly places with Christ Jesus, that in the ages to come he might.
Okay, hold it. Okay? God's riches at Christ's expense are justification. Now we're getting to glorification. In Ephesians, it doesn't go, theologians will teach you justification, sanctification, glorification. But the Bible teaches here justification, glorification. I think it's very, very important. I think it's very important. My friend Henry, who's one of the best theologians I know, doesn't like this order. And I say, Henry, you're a great theologian and a great grace legacy builder, but go with the Bible, don't go with theologians. Now, keep reading, please.
That in the ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness toward us through Christ Jesus. For by grace you are
Okay,
saved.
hold it, just a second. I want to say. Now, he's just going to reiterate this, but before we get there, glorification. You remember earlier in Ephesians 1, God is demonstrating his great power, and he's raising Christ from the dead. This is the greatest power of the universe, to take a dead person and make them alive. And so what God is doing is he's now demonstrating that same power with us. He's taken us who are dead, making us alive through the power of the Holy Spirit. It's not through intellectual prowess, although we have to have intellectual assent. We have to say, yes, this is for me, but this is all what God does for us. And he seats us. Listen. Where are you seated right now? Right now, where are you seated according to the laws of physics? In India, in Bangalore, in this room. According to the spiritual laws of the universe, where are you seated right now? What we just read in the book of Ephesians, where are you seated? With Christ Jesus. God thought so much of Jesus that when he raised you and I, he didn't make us little minions. He seated us at his right hand. Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones said this, my friends. This is perhaps the most profound thing one human being can say to another. That you are currently seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. Wow. That's really something, isn't it? Continue, please.
For grace you are saved through faith, that not our works, lest any man boast.
Okay, now there's a period there. Now listen, we've already said that our condemnation is Satan, society, and self, and now we're justified by God's riches, God's mercy. And now he talked about our glorification, that we're seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. And just to make it clear, Where's the human activity here?
No.
Nowhere. Nowhere. Just to make it clear, he wants to say this. By grace you are saved through faith. This is not of yourselves, it's a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. Period. The greatest day of my life, one of the greatest days, not only when I got married, not only when I became a born-again Christian, I gave my life to Christ as a 16-year-old, but it was when my daughter became a camp counselor. And she shared the faith. And I walk into her room and I see this. For by grace are you saved through faith. It's not of yourself, it's a gift of God. Not by works, lest anyone should boast. And on Father's Day, she wrote this to me. Dad, this has always been your favorite book of the verse in the Bible. Verses. Now they're mine. Wow. Isn't that beautiful? That's how the faith is passed on. Now, read sanctification. What's our role?
For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. Therefore remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh.
Oh, no, just 10.
Yeah.
So we are his workmanship, his masterpiece, his handiwork. What good news do we have for the world? That we get to tell people that you contribute nothing to your salvation, but God did everything. And then, just to make things even better, he doesn't just save us. He doesn't just save us. That would be enough, would it not? Wouldn't that be great not to go to hell? That's good enough. But now he seats us in the heavenly realms with Christ Jesus, and he plans good works for us to do in advance. This is what I've been asking you about, dreams of divine desire. You and I were designed by God to be his handiwork and his masterpiece in this lost and broken world. Wow. That's a high calling, is it not? Is that beautiful? Is this gospel so rich that not only did God save us, but he glorified us and he's sanctifying us. He doesn't just save us from hell, he saves us to something. I got a guy who comes to our church because of this. He'll say, I was always told just get saved, and then you might as well just keep everyone's head underwater and just kill them so they can go to heaven. This is why I come to this church, so that I can find out what I'm saved for, so we can make a difference, to be salt and light. Jesus didn't say, go hide in a cave. He said, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Wow. America used to believe that. We believe we are a city on a hill, a light to the nations. You guys can turn India upside down. I hope we can have Reformation and revival in America. Actually, right now in Asbury, Kentucky, there's a revival going on. They've canceled classes once again at Asbury Seminary College. Wow, is this gospel beautiful? But guys, it would mean nothing to go to heaven with all of you if my kids weren't coming too, would it? I mean, it would be enough. It would be wonderful. But isn't it great that my daughter would say, they're now mine? Don't you want that for your children's children? I've seen kids happy and adjusted, their parents get divorced and now they don't go to church. I've seen fathers who haven't done family-led worship. Their kids don't now go to church. It wasn't real, it wasn't authentic. I'm not telling you, and we talked about this before, this isn't a magic formula that God is obligated to. But this is what God has decided to use for his children's children's children to go to heaven. Father-led family worship, where the father gets out the Bible, reads it to his wife and children, prays with and for his family, and then they sing to Jesus. Let's close, and so Anadip, I'm going to have you close in prayer, but first I want us to sing Amazing Grace together, the first verse. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Lord, we thank you, we praise you for this day, Lord. Thank you, Lord, all the way